We stopped by a flea market the other day that needed a spiritual clearing, and it turned out to be really easy because it used collector energy. I'll tell you about that in today's episode. Years ago, I started working with my spiritual guide on clearing properties and helping spirits cross over. So, in essence, spiritual clearing work. When I was working with him, he was very patient with me because I was a little bit uncomfortable doing the work. I had, the fear factor in there a little bit. He was very patient with me and he taught me so much. And one day I remember he sat down and said, "You're a collector." And I said, "What do you mean, collector?" Because that's an odd word or term to use. He said, "When it comes to doing spiritual clearings, you're a collector." Now, the confusing part for me was spiritual clearings is getting rid of bad energy or helping a spirit to go to cross over, not to collect things. And when I explained this to him, he said, "No, it's not that you're collecting things. It's the term collector is more you're magnetic." So if there is an area that needs to be cleared, a home, if there's energy that needs to be moved, more importantly, if there's a spirit that's stuck that needs to cross over, they're going to magnetically be drawn toward you. And I said, "Okay, so you kind of magnetically collect and then you can help." And he said, "Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's makes a lot of sense." So I asked him, does everyone have this collector thing? Is everyone a collector? And he made it very clear that every person can do crossing over work. Everyone. There's you don't have to be a special type of person to do it. You can do it. So if you're in a situation where you know a spirit's stuck and you know they need a little bit of extra help, you can do the work. You can talk to them, help them, calm them, comfort them, send them energy, send them positive love to help move them along on their transition. But if you're a collector, there's collectors all over the world. In essence, what that means is that you have a particular type of energy that attracts individuals that are stuck and attracts energy that is also stuck and needs to move. You're wired that way. It's one of your jobs here on Earth. I say one because we have a lot of jobs, right? I'm a mom and I'm a teacher, and we've got a lot of different jobs. But if you're a collector, it's just a way of saying that you're wired to have these situations almost be attracted to your energy field. And it's really neat too, because as a collector, you hold a particular type of energy that is very much an unconditional loving energy. It's the kind of energy that people, when they feel it, who are stuck and crossing over, when they feel your energy, there's something about it that gives them a sense of balance or a sense of calm. It's why they're attracted to it. It's like I'm a bright old light and they're moths and they're like, "Ooh, there's something calming about this." That's in essence what the collector is. Now, the other part of having collector energy is being able to help people transition with more ease, being wired this way, knowing that this is how we do, clearing work, knowing that you're going to attract these spirits to you. You're able to hold yourself in a space of that feeling of moving forward, that feeling of moving along in your transition. So when a spirit comes up and comes closer to me that is stuck, there's going to be a couple different situations. Either they're drawn to me and they come very quickly because they're looking for help, or they're drawn to me, but they don't necessarily come very quickly because they're not looking for help. But either way, when their energy fields connect, when there is that sense of being present with each other, the collector energy helps to give a little bit of that calm and a little bit of that soothing so that maybe they can shake out of something that they're in, shake out of the reason why they're stuck, and start to move on. So even though the word collector has got that kind of feeling of like, collecting things and holding on to them, when it comes to spiritual crossings, a collector is somebody that collects spirits that are in need and helps them transition over to the other side. It's a wonderful thing. It doesn't affect me in a negative way in any way, shape, or form. I didn't even really completely understand it until I had been doing the work for a while. Now, if you're a collector, these are the things that you'll start to see. You'll start to sense a spirit is nearby that needs assistance. And then when you pay attention and you say, okay, I sense that there's a spirit here. I know that they're stuck. And then all of a sudden, the spirit transitions and continues on their journey to the other side. There's a brief moment where there's almost like a recognition that you've identified them, they've identified you, and now they're transitioning and you didn't do anything else. Now, it doesn't happen that way all the time. Certainly doesn't happen that way all the time, but it does occasionally happen. And that's what happened at the flea market. I arrived, I knew it needed to be cleared because Peter, my main guide, told me that the day before. He said, hey, you're going to be going to this flea market. I need you to clear it. So when we arrived, I was half expecting to feel like a really heavy energy. I will say that there was clutter energy for sure, but come on, it's a flea market. Clutter comes with the gig. And I felt the cluttered energy, but I didn't feel anything really heavy or difficult or anything like that. And then I sensed it. I sensed that sort of a collector process where I could feel what needed to be cleared. I could feel that there was definitely an area of the land that needed to be cleared. There's definitely a few spirits around that also needed to continue with their transition to cross over. But I also felt that collector moment of, I don't think I need to really do anything here. I always check in with my guides. I always check in with my guides. And I just said real quick, Peter, do I need to do anything here? And he said, no, you just need to be here. So in essence, when it comes to collectors, a collector is somebody that might be called to a certain location. And sometimes, not all the time, I'm sure for some collectors, it's all the time. For me, it's just every now and then. I'll go to a place and just being there, being present, having that energy wired into me is really all the spirits needed in order to get unstuck and start moving. Because sometimes it's the smallest thing that can help someone cross over. Sometimes it's the smallest thing. It's just a wish of love or holding yourself in a space of compassion. And in essence, that's what the collector energy does. It says, I recognize you. I recognize that you're stuck and I love you. And just by doing that, that in itself will help someone transition. So there I sat and said, oh, okay, I don't need to do anything. And I just rested for a little bit and, sat and meditated. And that was it. And then it was cleared. And the land, I would say, took a little bit longer. It wasn't something that was going to be cleared in a moment or two. The spirits felt like they headed over and crossed over right away. The land itself took a little bit longer to process. Now, a couple questions pop up. Does this energy drain you? Or does it take that collector energy? Or what? Anything kind of like, does it affect you in a negative way? Not really. Not really. It's more in the category of being seen and being recognized than it is in being given energy when it comes to the spirit. So the spirit is being seen and being recognized by this collector energy, and it's not necessarily taking that energy. It's kind of like, hitting that home run and you're 3 steps away from the base and all you need is for the coach to look at you to make those final 3 steps. It's a recognition. It's a connection to say, we're all connected. You're not alone. I'm right here and I love you. Those simple things can help someone transition. On a rare occasion, I've had spirits transition without me even knowing. How do I know that? I used to work with a really fantastic energy worker that at one point told me that. She said, you've been crossing over a lot of people recently. And I thought, consciously, I don't recall crossing over a lot of them. And she said, no, something's going on. So I talked to Peter about it and he said, well, this is just that collector energy. You're you're like a touch point, or you're like a light that just turned on in the dark and now they can see, so they go. They don't need to talk to you, they don't need to confirm, they just needed a little bit of light shining in the dark so they could go, okay, here we go. And it's a particular vibration, it's a particular energy, and I'm very grateful for it, because I feel like even if it kind of gives me this feeling of, even if I can't be present and consciously having a discussion with someone who's stuck and saying, hey, let me help you, I know at least that collector energy, that collector, wiring is there to help them, even if consciously, I might not. So it worked out really easy. And when it comes to being a collector, how do you know if you're a collector? Like I said, you'll recognize that someone that's stuck is, kind of attracted to your energy and moving towards you, but then all of a sudden transitioning, and you didn't really do anything to help. I mean, you did something, you were present, and, you held that space of unconditional love. And this might happen a few times. You'll start to recognize it more and more as you do more work. Occasionally, you'll go into a situation with the intent to do the clearing, and you'll be like, okay, like the flea market. I went there and I looked around and I was like, all right, who's stuck? Where can I help? How can I balance the energy? And you find that your guides are like, you don't need to do anything. You just need to be present. Isn't it wonderful when someone is just present for you? They're not trying to fix it. They're not trying to change you or, switch the situation around to make it better for you. They're not trying to do anything like that. They're just present. They're there with you. That's what it is to be a collector. And there's a lot of collectors out there. There's a lot of collectors. Why? Because we're all connected. And no one's supposed to be alone in death. No one is supposed to be alone in their transition. And if someone feels alone, isolated, as if they're not seen, they might hold still. And being seen, or even just recognized by that unconditional loving energy, that collector energy, that can be enough for them to say, okay, I'm not alone. And it'll help them to transition, which is so important, because ghosts are people too.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Crossing Over community, a loving and safe community of individuals who are shining light on the beautiful process of the death transition. Members of this community are amazing people just like yourself. Join the discussion, access more in-depth trainings, and be a part of this growing movement by joining the Crossing Over community today.